I have, in the recent weeks, been contacted by a person who wishes to remain anonymous, who is very close to someone who was aboard the Fitzgerald, and has asked me on multiple occasions to stay on this, and I have tried to explain that the channel was going a different direction. But now that this report has come out, and they are now once again attempting to blame young sailors for this problem, we're going to be back on it. That's never going to fly here. Never. If they want to dismiss admirals and they want to adjust training programs, perfectly fine with that. They've fired 7 guys, but they've said now that they're going to start to go after some junior sailors aboard, and that's no way. This was an attack. If they want to play hide and cover up, and that this was an accident, you know, for their own personal well-being, that's fine. But their own report that they just put out shows clearly they're lying again, and this was an attack. It's literally in the description of events in the timeline, and in this video, I know I said I wouldn't do it, but there's no way we're going to let this fly. Not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. They're counting on people forgetting or not paying attention, and that's never going to happen here. So, without any further ado, this is a picture that was attached to the unclassified report of the collision between the ACX Crystal and the USS Fitzgerald. Now, first, anybody who's gone to my videos and has seen this can show you what the problem is here. They're finally showing a track of the Fitzgerald, which shows it a little bit west of south, tracking at 20 knots, with times attached to it. And the times cannot be right, and the speed cannot be right. Not only based on the damage and based on common damn sense, but based on what they're showing here. It shows it at 0105 hours, moving 20 knots, at just a little off of 180, about 190 degrees. Now, first of all, clearly this has got to be just some artist's rendering and has no basis in actual reality. Because look at the distance. This is saying it traveled at 20 knots between 0105 and 0129 hours. And over here, we have the ACX Crystal, which we know from the ACX was moving at only 18 knots. Look at what they're saying it traveled in 10 minutes, having to make a turn in the middle. And the turn happened at 1:15, and we do have the track over here. We're going to show this in a minute. This is completely wrong, because the Crystal was not running on this bearing, because this would have put the Crystal inland about 20 minutes prior at that speed. And it didn't make a turn at 0105 hours. And why they're deciding they're just going to throw the Merskavora over here, it's silliness in the extreme. But they have a description here that says this happened at this time and this happened at this time. And there's a couple of glaring problems in there, and a couple of things that point directly to an attack by the ACX Crystal, and we're going to show it. So, real quick, though, before we do this, I just want to get everybody on the same sheet here now. I'm sorry, I haven't done this in a long time. Never thought I'd have to do it again, but here we are. Timestamp. Of course, 1615 GMT correlates to 0115 hours local time, ACX Crystal track. We've seen this about 1,000 times for anybody who's been with me. Sorry we're going over this. I know it's blurry, but it's the best I can do. It's showing a track of 88 degrees and 18.4 knots. We're going to go ahead and play this forward 2x. And we are now at 0120 and 0125. And they're saying now here's 0130. That's when this makes the big jump that we're all familiar with and makes the turn back here. And now we're at 140. Well, look at the report. Notice a problem? Yeah, of course. The preliminary report that they put out a month or whenever, 2 months ago when it came out, was full of glaring inconsistencies and errors. Why we should expect anything different here? Because it's a giant lie and a giant cover-up, and they're not expecting anybody to pay attention to it. This is just beyond ridiculous. Even anybody who's come to my channel could sit here and point out 5, 6 things that are all wrong here. this turn is wrong. There was no turn at 110. And we can show that on the track. They have this ship here at 115 and this one here at 129. So clearly one of them's a time traveler. But we're going to go down to the bottom part here of this where they go over the time. And there's something I missed that I should have seen a long time ago, and that's going to be after we cover this. But they go through all of the damage, and they in detail to a point of ad nauseum of the detail that happened with the damage here, trying to cover up the basic problem with the story. And we're going to get down to here in a minute. But we'll do this first with the commanding officer. The commanding officer was in his cabin at the time of the collision. The crystal's bow directly struck his cabin, located above the waterline. The impact severely damaged his cabin, trapping him inside. The CO called the bridge requesting assistance. That's interesting. The CO called the bridge requesting assistance. We'll jump down to the second paragraph here. A junior officer and 2 chief petty officers removed debris from in front of the door and crawled into the cabin. The skin of the ship and outer bulkhead were gone, and the night sky could be seen through the hanging wires and ripped steel. The rescue teams tied themselves together with a belt in order to create a makeshift harness as they retrieved the CO, who was hanging from the side of the ship. How in the hell did he call for help if he was hanging from the side of the ship? What, did they have walkie-talkies? Did he have one in bed with him at 1:30 in the morning? And just, gosh, it was just sheer luck that he had it clipped to his belt so that when he got tossed out the side of the ship and was hanging from it, he could call the bridge. Or did he just shout out the window or out the giant hole created by the collision? They have nobody reading their reports. Clearly, they have no one reading them. But let's see here. We're going to go down here to the timeline and show, and this is where they say, all the blame and all the problems that they allege happened when clearly this was not an accident. This was an attack. So this is the day before, 16 June right here, but we go down to 17 June, and this is when they start getting a little bit strange. Now, it shows this that they started off at 220 degrees and then shifted over to 190 degrees. So clearly they were moving across, they were heading towards south from west. The best way I can describe that. But here we go. It's about noon. And they have other ships and other contacts that they seem to not have any issue with. But there's something here. Here we go. 0110. Watchstanders unsuccessfully attempted to initiate a radar track on the crystal. Really? At 110. So now the crystal is invisible. Or their radar that seems to have no problem tracking everything else can't track this one ship. Crystal 0115. Crystal was closing Fitzgerald's intended track at a high rate of speed. Do you remember the picture I just showed you? They were literally on top of each other. And remember, the captain of the Crystal said 30 minutes prior that he was aware of the Fitzgerald. He was aware of the ship that he ended up hitting. And if this were the case, why did he continue 30 minutes down his track? If this was something that both commanders knew about, and this commander knew about, why did they wait an hour to report it? Because it also shows in this report that they didn't lose communications nearly as fast as they said they did. 0117, the Fitzgerald officer of the deck plotted a radar track on a vessel thought to be the Crystal and calculated the Crystal would pass 1,500 yards from the Fitzgerald. Maybe that's what they're talking about with the Merskavora, but if they'd been tracking it visually at that point, because if the guy who was the commander of the Crystal could see that ship, they could see them. One can't see you and the other does. It doesn't work that way. And here, it's insane what they said happened. The officer of the deck ordered course to the right, ordered course to the right to course 240T, but whatever the hell that means, but rescinded the order within a minute. Instead, the officer of the deck ordered an increase to full speed and a rapid turn to port. These orders were not carried out. That's interesting. The bosun mate of the watch, a more senior supervisor of the bridge, took over the helm and executed the orders. Wow. That's an interesting... Really? That might be video worthy in and of itself. Neither, as of 1:30, neither Fitzgerald nor Crystal made an attempt to establish radio communication or sound the danger signal. So clearly, once again, the captain of the Crystal must have been lying, because he said he blew his horn, he flashed his lights, and had been attempting unsuccessfully to contact the Crystal. So how could any of this be true? It can't be true. None of this can be true. This is a giant cover-up of an attack. Because what clearly happened here, and you can see it, that this ship over here, the Crystal, we're going to back it up here, okay, made this change in course, allegedly toward, he wasn't on a static track, toward the Fitzgerald. Moved right into his path. The Wanhai would have had the same issue as the Crystal, but acted entirely differently. So this is when the alleged collision occurred. They just keep going. And remember, the captain of the Crystal said he wasn't asleep, he was on the bridge, and he was aware. He was absolutely aware of what had happened. But yet, look, here he goes. And we've covered this ad nauseum. So now, for no apparent reason other than maybe to go finish the job because he didn't sink it the first time, with his magical ship that now is invisible to radar, can do 180-degree turns in less than 2 minutes, and it's just insane. And so now here we are, and oh yeah, 2:20, that's when the phone call was made from, magically, at the exact same time, the people aboard the Crystal and the people aboard the, and this was from the preliminary report, people aboard the Fitzgerald, at the exact same time, just strangely enough, decided then to report what happened at 02:15 hours. I sound like a broken record. I swear I wasn't going to ever do this again, but now they're putting out a report, an official report, that is just so full of errors. And it looks like this picture that they made, it looks like he handed it to his 11-year-old niece and said, here's a picture that we're going to show you. Can you create a color sketch of it? I mean, it's just beyond. I'm sorry. There we go. This isn't even close. This looks like seriously, this looks like a third grader did this, because this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever in reality. So, and like I said, I was going to let it go. I was going to let it be. But now they're going, to continue this investigation. They've appointed this new guy who's going to now go after the people aboard the ship. And there's also, and you can read down here where they say the 3 watchstanders, the physical watchstanders on the outside of the ship, were watching on the port side, but nobody was watching on the starboard. They had 3 guys. If you have 3 guys on the port side, yeah, clearly one fore, one aft, one center. The fore and aft guys would still be able to see over their damn shoulders to starboard and see that there was a problem. I shouldn't probably have done this, but when people come to me privately and say, please cover this, please go back to this and get justice for our sailors, I'm going to do it. I'm sorry. This issue in South America will be what it's going to be, but as long as they're going to try to do this and they're going to try to sully the names of these sailors, yeah, not going to let that fly here. So anyway, like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for the support. We will be on this, and we will see you next time. Thank you.